Hi, welcome to the Empower Series Online. My name is Clifton Johnson. I'm the founder of the Empower Series Incorporated. We're a 501c3 organization that's brought to you by the generous donations of Comerica Bank, AE Media Group, and you. Thank you. Our speaker today, Tara Alderete from Money Management International, is going to talk about how to avoid scams and identity theft. So believe it or not, at this time and age, there are people out there trying to steal your identity and scam you. I can't believe it. Well, you're going to get protected today, or get some good tips on how to protect yourself. So get your pens ready, make comments, ask questions, and more importantly, share this with other people so that they can be protected. So without any further ado, Tara, take it away.
Thanks, Clifton. Well, I'm always happy to join the Empower series, and today we're going to be talking about avoiding identity theft and fraud. My name is Tara Alderete. I'm the Director of Education and Community Relations for Money Management International, or MMI. MMI is a 501c3 nonprofit credit counseling and housing organization, and we serve clients to help them achieve their financial goals and manage their money. So to schedule a free initial debt and budget session, or maybe a housing pre-purchase counseling session or debt management plan, check out more about our services at www.moneymanagement.org or give us a call at 866-889-9347. Thanks again to the Empower series for having us on today. Empower series is made possible by support from AE Media Group, Comerica Bank, and your individual donations. To learn more about the Empower series, visit them at www.empowerseries.com. I'm excited to talk today a little bit more about identity theft. It's an important topic, and it's especially important to know the facts and stay vigilant in times of crisis. So grab a pen and a piece of paper, because we're also going to be identifying your identity theft IQ and assessing your risk. So let's get started.
All right, so let's get started. Again, the topic today is avoiding identity theft and scams. We're going to talk about what identity theft is and how it occurs. We'll also talk about steps you can take if you've been targeted by identity thieves or scammers. We'll also go over common scams, especially now while COVID-19 is still very active and those first round of stimulus checks are coming out, and strategies you can implement to avoid them. And then we'll also review some common resources to assist you, not only in preventing identity theft, but should you become a victim. So to put the subject of identity theft in perspective, I wanted to share some recent statistics. Identity Force suggests that 1 in 5 people have experienced identity fraud in recent years. And according to the Federal Trade Commission, almost 3 million consumer reports were taken in 2018, and that's up from the previous year. Of those reports, the most common ones were imposter scams, debt collection, and identity theft. And for individuals that did experience fraud, the average loss was $375. So this is a very serious issue. And unfortunately, in our current environment, and especially as those economic impact payments or stimulus checks have started to go out, we're sure to see a rise in fraud and scams against consumers. But there's good news, and that is that you can take steps to safeguard your finances against it. So they say knowledge is power. So I wanted to take a minute now so that you could assess your level of risk. So we've got an identity theft quiz on the screen, and I'd like to ask you to grab a pen and paper again. And I'm just going to kind of go through these questions. I know that you can see them, but I'm going to go through them for your benefit as well. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to read each statement, and then you'll add the number of points that we say, and then add those points up to understand your identity theft IQ. So this is kind of a good exercise. I hope you've got your pen and paper. Let's get started. So the first statement is, I receive several offers of pre-approved credit every week. If this is true, jot down 5 points. Add another 5 points if you do not shred or use a crosscut shredder before putting those offers in the trash. Add 10 points if you carry your Social Security card in your wallet. Another 10 points if your state driver's license has your social security number printed on it, and if you haven't contacted the Department of Motor Vehicles to request a different number or a different driver's license. Another 10 points if you do not believe someone would break into your house and steal your personal information. 10 points if you do not use a firewall on your personal computer. This is a big one. 20 points if you have not ordered a copy of your credit reports for the last 2 years. Add 10 points if you use an unlocked open box at work or at home to drop off outgoing mail. So you just kind of leave it for somebody to come pick up. Add another 5 points if you don't have a P.O. box or a locked secure mailbox. So, somebody could just open it down by the curb. If you have a military ID and you carry that in your wallet at all times, add another 10 points. Next statement is, I do not shred my banking and credit information when I throw it in the trash. If that statement is true, add 10 points. Add another 10 points if you throw away old credit and debit cards without shredding them or cutting them up first. I provide my social security number whenever asked without asking why it's needed and how it'll be safeguarded. This is true. Add 10 points. Add 5 points if you provide it orally without checking to see who might be around you to hear it. If you ever leave your purse or wallet in the car, add 10 points. If this statement is true, I am required to use my social security number at work as an employee ID or at college as a student ID number. Add 5 points. 10 points if your social security number is printed on your employee badge that you wear at work or in public when you go to the store after work, or it's posted on your time card so others can see it when you clock in or out. Add 10 points if you have your social security number and or driver's license number printed on your personal checks. If you're listed in a who's who guide, add 5 points. 10 points if you carry your insurance card, including Medicare, in your wallet, and either your social security number or the social security number of your spouse is the ID number of that card. If the next statement is true, add 10 points. I do not believe that people root around in my trash looking for credit or financial information or for documents containing my social. And then finally, add 10 points if you do not verify that all financial, meaning credit card or checking statements, are accurate each month. So as we've gone through this, you added either 5 or 10 points, or for that biggie, 20. And so I'd like to give you a minute now to just kind of go through and add those points up and then jot down your total overall score. So let's take a closer look at what that means. If you had between 0 and 49 points, this is a big congratulations to you. That means you have a high identity theft IQ. So the advice is to keep up the great work and don't let your guard down because you're doing all the right things. Let's say you added up to between 50 and 99 points. Your odds of being victimized are about average. But if you had 100 points or more, the recent surveys out there indicate that 8 to 9 million people are victims of identity theft each year, and that's actually higher. That climbs each year. So that means you're at high risk. And we at MMI recommend that you purchase a paper shredder, become more security aware in shredding those documents, and then really start to question why people need that personal data. Guard your information carefully. So just a little bit of fun, because I think it's a great way to start this session, because we know that identity theft is such a common thing, but we all kind of think, it's never going to happen to us, right? So this is a great exercise to get us to sort of understand our risk. So now, with a better idea of your risk level, let's just dive in. So identity theft defined is a crime where an imposter gains unauthorized access to critical personal information like your social security number or your driver's license, and they use that to impersonate you. By assuming the identity of the victim, the imposter can then secure lines of credit, they can take funds out of bank accounts, they can make purchases, they can even apply for employment. And we're also seeing more and more medical fraud. In addition to these kinds of fraudulent acts, the imposter can also create false credentials with your information, and then they can use that to do all kinds of things. One of them, to establish a criminal record with your identity. This can become really scary. So, misconceptions about identity theft and fraud are pretty common. And part of safeguarding your information is knowing the facts. So, we have some of these myth busters throughout the session. So, consider what you think of this statement, whether it's true or false. Thieves perpetrate the highest incident of identity theft online. Well, believe it or not, according to a recent study, most thieves still obtain personal information the old fashioned way, and that's by stealing your purse or wallet. But online fraud continues to rise, we know, and we need to be especially careful right now in this age of social media. And of course, with more of us working online at home and learning online at home, we have to be very careful about online fraud. So, as you can see here, the most common types of identity theft actually could occur online. So, most commonly, identity theft crimes come in the form of new credit card accounts, things like online shopping and social media fraud. That's what we mean by miscellaneous identity theft, tax fraud, new cell phone accounts, and then use of existing accounts, whether to purchase things online or what have you. And so that's what makes up all the different types of identity theft today. And so as you can see, most or all of these can be perpetrated online. So let's talk a little bit more about how these imposters get a hold of your information. You might be surprised to learn that you're actually often the very first resource an identity theft will use. If you're like most people, you keep a lot of your personal information with you, like your driver's license, debit and credit cards, and they're typically always right there in your wallet or in your purse. Another way that imposters can gain information is actually through family members or friends that have access to your records. So if you keep bank statements, tax forms, other documents, statements, receipts, anything like that out in the open, believe it or not, even in your own home, you could be putting yourself at risk. And identity thieves, you guys, they'll even go through your mailbox and your trash. It seems like they wouldn't, but they do. Besides these traditional methods, identity thieves are increasingly targeting individuals online, as we said. So, because as technology advances to give us all those modern day conveniences that we love, remember, criminals are also using more sophisticated techniques to hack into our devices and get our information. So here are some of the common schemes. Phishing and pre-texting. So this involves sending you anonymous emails or text messages with the expectation that you'll open them and give the hacker access to your information. So a lot of times these messages seem to come from reputable companies with the intent for you to give out personal information, and they can really look legitimate. Other times, the records of someone you might have done business with in the past, like a doctor or an accountant or a lawyer, may have been stolen. And then, of course, online data breaches into the records of retailers and banks, and even a credit reporting company in recent years are also becoming more common. Vishing is the practice of trying to elicit personal information over the telephone. So somebody calls you on the phone and asks for your personal information. But of course, they don't just call and say, hello, could you give me your personal information? They're calling and they're saying things to prey on your fear or your insecurity. So there's a lot of these around senior parent and grandparent scams, right? I'm calling because your mother or your grandmother is in trouble and they need you to help them out. I'm calling for you to help, people in need, things like that. They're often disguised as really worthy causes or something designed to prey on our fear. And so we have to be careful and vigilant never to share personal information over the phone unless we're confident of the source. That's phishing. And then smishing happens when somebody is tricked into downloading a virus or malware on their mobile device or your computer. computer. So let's say you get a text message and it's asking you to call a number or visit a link, or you get an email and it's saying, visit this link or click here. Don't do it unless you're absolutely sure where it's coming from, because it could compromise the data on your device. You could be installing spyware without even knowing that it's happening. Pretty scary stuff. I wanted to talk a little bit more about some of the common scams to watch out for surrounding coronavirus and these economic impact checks that we're starting to get. So remember, cyber criminals and identity thieves won't just prey on your online activity or your activity with your bank. They're going to exploit your fear and your insecurity as well. So currently, you might see emails, text message, even social media posts with false information, but it looks like they're coming from really legitimate public health sources. ConsumerAffairs.com actually gives an example of this, where a link looks like it's going to take you to a map of COVID-19 cases that are near you, but when you click on it, it might actually infect your device with spyware. So your best bet right now, and always, of course, is to seek out sources for yourself that you know are reputable instead of clicking on links. No matter how good they look or how legitimate they seem, go to those sites proactively on your own that you know are legitimate for the public health information that you're looking for. So those websites are, of course, the Centers for Disease Control at cdc.gov and the World Health Organization at who.int. So you'll want to go there on your own to be sure that you're safe. Besides phishing and vishing, where people will send you text messages and emails, other scams to look out for are those fraudulent websites. And these might be things that are offering things like safety equipment and test kits, employment opportunities. Click here to learn about employment opportunities in your area during the economic downturn. Uh, they might look like fraudulent offers for vaccines or even phony charity donation sites. And as those economic payments, impact payments, or stimulus checks are beginning to be sent and received, it's really important that we stay vigilant to protect our information on this front too. So the biggest thing about that is really knowing the facts and verifying the information. So I wanted to share some of the facts from the IRS, the Federal Trade Commission, and the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. So first, know that most people won't need to take any action to receive payment. In most cases, the federal government already has your information from taxes you filed in 2018 and 19. So your payment's automatically going to be deposited or sent if you're eligible. You can check your eligibility and payment status online. I'll share this again later, but the website is irs.gov/coronavirus/economic impact payments. But in short, if you're a U.S. resident with a work-eligible Social Security number and you're not a dependent of another taxpayer, if you're married filing jointly and your annual gross income is up to $150,000, you can expect to receive $2,400. If you're an individual filer and your annual gross income is up to $75,000, or if you're a head of household filer with an annual gross income up to $112,500, so $112,500, you can expect to receive $1,200. And then you'll also receive $500 for each qualified child. So if you exceed the income requirements, I think we've mostly heard this, payments will be reduced incrementally based on your income. But those are the facts about what you can expect to receive and how those payments are typically coming out. The next thing is there's no early payment option. So because these payments are going to be sent proactively, if you get any messages from services offering the ability to expedite your check or get you your check faster or get more on your check, it's probably a scam. The next fact is you can still receive payment without taking any action, even if you don't typically file a tax return. So let's say you're not required to file a return for whatever reason, whether you're a Social Security recipient, senior citizen, or otherwise required not to file. The IRS is actually going to use the information that it already has from that SSA 1099 or RRB 1099 to generate your payment. So again, if you get some phone calls or text messages or emails saying, hey, you didn't file taxes this year because you weren't required, share this information so we can get your payment, probably a scam because those will also be sent automatically. The next fact to know is that Economic impact payments are going to be available through the rest of this year, through the rest of 2020. So even if you have a tax obligation, but you haven't filed your return for 2018 or 19, you can still receive payment when you file. So again, if somebody's saying, hey, the money is about to run out, we need to expedite this by getting your personal information, know that these payments are available through the end of the year. Next, and this is really important, not only now, but we also see it around this time of year every year. The IRS will not call you, they won't text you, or they're not going to email you to ask for personal information. The only way the IRS typically communicates with you is through mail. Although the IRS does plan to mail a confirmation letter to you at your last known address after this economic stimulus payment is made, so you should get a confirmation letter, that's true. But even in the rare case that some action is required on your part for payment, the IRS is never going to call you, text you, or email you to ask for it. They're always going to communicate by mail. So don't ever give out your personal information without verifying the source and the reason. And if you're not sure, go to the source yourself. So what this means is if you're contacted by somebody claiming to be from the IRS or even from your bank or a service provider, and they're asking for personal information, instead of just giving that information, say, I'd like to confirm that this call is legitimate, and hang up and call them back at the number that you know to be accurate. And so you can always get this information if we're dealing with the IRS, of course, at their website at irs.gov. And if it's from a bank or service provider, their legitimate contact information is always going to be either on the back of your card or on a monthly statement. And then the last fact is that payments will not be subject to garnishment or defaulted student loans or tax debt. However, the economic impact payments might be subject to state or local government garnishments or court-ordered garnishments, or if you're behind on child support. So these are some important facts to know. And again, I've said it before, right? Knowledge is power. I really think that understanding the facts around these economic impact payments will help protect you against identity theft and fraud around them. So now that you know the facts, I wanted to talk strategies to detect identity theft. But before we do that, I wanted to show you another myth buster. So this is another statement to consider. True or false? Most people discover they're the victims of identity theft by monitoring their own accounts. If you think this is true, you're correct. So according to a recent Federal Trade Commission survey, over 50% of victims identified identity theft by monitoring their own accounts. And they did this either by just reviewing their regular monthly statements or checking and reviewing that credit report. So let's say in the unfortunate case that you do become a victim, this Fair and Accurate Credit Transactions Act, there are a lot of words in this presentation that are a mouthful today. This Fair and Accurate Credit Transactions Act, though, is designed to provide some help. So basically, this act requires credit bureaus to stop reporting fraudulent account information once you establish that you've been the victim of identity theft. Creditors or businesses must also provide copies or records of fraudulent accounts or transactions related to them. And this documentation can be really important to help you prove that you are, in fact, a victim. And consumers can also report accounts affected by identity theft directly to their creditors, in addition to the credit reporting agencies. And this ability can help prevent erroneous information from popping up on their credit report. You can also visit identitytheft.gov to make a report and create a recovery plan to take immediate steps if you're the victim of identity theft. I wanted to kind of show you what this website looks like and how it works. It's a fantastic website if you found that you've been a victim because it's going to walk you through all these important steps and it's actually going to help you build an action plan. So it's a really great tool. But if you do become the victim of identity theft, immediate steps that you'd want to take would be to first contact your creditors. You want to call all the companies where you know fraud occurred, but you also want to call the other service providers and credit card companies and banks that you do business with as well to let them know that your information was compromised and that the possibility for fraud does exist. The next thing would be to place a fraud alert on your credit report, and then get a copy of all your credit reports from the credit bureaus. And remember, we can get a copy of the free report, www.annualcreditreport.com. You can also go directly to the credit report agency websites, and that would be Experian.com, TransUnion.com, or Equifax.com. The next thing you'd want to do is report identity theft to the Federal Trade Commission. And you could do that right here on this website that I'm showing you now. The next would be to file a police report with your local police department. And this is important because you're starting to build a paper trail, right? Much like disputing items on your credit report, unfortunately, if you're the victim of identity theft or fraud, the onus is really on you to take responsibility for it. And so we've got to start to build supporting documentation that's really strong to prove our case. And so as we build that supporting documentation, a police report is an important part of that. But then the next and sort of final thing that you'd want to do immediately is to start building and maintaining proper and accurate and full documentation regarding your claim. All right. But be patient if you are the victim of identity theft, because here's my other myth buster. And guys, this is a true fact. Most victims indicate that it takes up to 12 months to clear issues of misinformation. And in some cases, it can take up to 2 years or even more. So you've got to be patient and you've got to be diligent, but you can overcome it. We've talked about a lot of stuff that's a little bit scary today. So now it's time for some good news. And the good news is you absolutely can defend yourself before identity theft even occurs. So we talked a little bit about this earlier, about never sharing your personal information, sort of understanding your risk level, knowing the common scams that are out there and how people get, your information to take advantage of it. So now you have a ton of knowledge, and you're more than halfway there. But I wanted to share with you these 5 steps to help stop identity theft in its tracks. So first, visit www.annualcreditreport.com to order and review your free credit reports every year. This is probably one of the most important things that we can do to make sure that there isn't information on our credit report that's not ours. And the other thing to keep in mind, and this is interesting, is that information on your credit report that's erroneous or misinformation, in some cases, identity thieves aren't looking to use your information, to buy things and make you pay for them. We've seen cases where identity thieves maybe don't have credit established of their own, so they're using your information to get a credit card or a loan, and they're making timely payments on that. So you might never be the wiser unless you check that credit report. Really important. The next step would be to properly dispose of personal papers, receipts, and junk mail. And the proper way to dispose of these, the best thing you can do is shred them. Sort of ripping them in half is not enough because, like I said, those imposters will go through your trash. Step 3, visit www.optoutprescreen.com or call 888-567 8688. This is 888-5-OPT-OUT. And by doing this, you can opt out of pre-screened credit card offers. And this is important because it limits an easy opportunity for fraudsters to intercept these offers and apply. So if you haven't opted out and you're getting flyers in the mail daily or even weekly, you've been pre-approved for this credit card, it becomes very easy for somebody to just snatch that out of your mailbox, complete the required information, which typically isn't too much and easy for them to get, and then bam, they've got a credit card in your name. So if you opt out of these things and then seek out proactively opportunities that you're interested in to apply for credit, it helps you become a little bit safer. The next step, of course, is to review those credit card and bank statements immediately when you get them or when they're available online. And you want to be looking for erroneous or fraudulent activity and then address it immediately if you see it. And then finally, step 5, of course, is to carefully guard that personal information. Be diligent in never clicking on links or opening email from unknown sources. If you see something that you're not sure of, just immediately delete. And remember, when in doubt, verify by contacting companies on your own, by calling them or visiting them at their known websites or their known phone numbers. Also, Be careful and use caution when using social media. I know that this is something we all do on a regular basis, and it seems like more social media platforms are continually being added, but be cautious about your use of social media. Remember that it can track your location services, and even something that might seem as innocent as posting pictures or details about, hey, I'm so excited, my summer vacation starts in 2 days. What you're doing is telling the world, hey, I'm not going to be home. So be real careful how you use social media and make sure that your settings are always adjusted to private. Next, you'd want to check the security of online sites that you frequently visit. So look in that browser address and make sure that it's a secure website. HTTPS would indicate secure. You also want to make sure that antivirus software is up to date on all of your devices. This is especially important, particularly now as we're all doing everything online virtually. If you have a landline, you want to consider maybe an unlisted phone number. Um, if you are working at home, I know this sounds maybe like might be a little bit more than necessary, but it's important to be in the habit of always logging out or locking that workstation when you step away. It's very easy for somebody to even come into your home and you forget that that computer's up with sensitive information on it. And then when things start to get back to normal and we're moving about more again, consider, if you go out of town, contacting the post office to hold your mail or just asking a neighbor to pick it up while you're out of town so that it's not available there in your mailbox for somebody else to grab. So before we wrap up, I wanted to just give you a moment to take a screenshot or jot down the resources that I talked about today, because I shared a couple of really good resources that I think you might find come in handy over the next weeks and months. So the first one would be that economic impact payment eligibility and status. So if you want to learn more about it, check your eligibility, see when your check is coming, you can visit irs.gov/coronavirus/economic impact payments. You could also just go to irs.gov and search for stimulus payments or economic impact payment. The next would be the CFBP Guide to Stimulus Checks. Great information in here, and you can just go to consumerfinance.gov and search for Guide to COVID-19 Economic Stimulus Relief. They've got all FAQs and facts about the stimulus payments and also scams to watch out for. Public health information can be found at cdc.gov and who.int. Remember, if you do become the victim of identity theft or fraud, you can visit identitytheft.gov to begin a report and the recovery planning process. The Federal Trade Commission at ftc.gov has some fabulous resources about identity theft. And then same is true for the Identity Theft Resource Center. You can see reports and white papers and statistics, and also information around common scams, particularly related to COVID-19 and the economic impact payment. So that website is idtheftcenter.org. We covered a lot today. The most important things to take away would be to protect yourself by protecting your personal information. Be vigilant, always. Never let your guard down. Know the facts about COVID-19 and economic stimulus payments so you don't get caught off guard. Check your credit reports and statements regularly to identify and address misinformation that you might see. And then finally, stay up to date with resources and use the 5 steps we talked about to avoid identity theft. I wanted to thank you again for your participation and attendance today and remind you you can visit us online at moneymanagement.org or moneymanagement.org/coronavirus to keep up on the latest information and resources about what's happening today. Thanks again, and everyone have a fantastic day.
Thank you for watching our Empower Series YouTube video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Remember to hit the subscribe button below, as well as the little button to be notified the next time we upload our video. Until then, stay connected with us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever your social media flavor is. Inspire the world to thrive. See you soon.